Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs at FlamesNation.ca. I'm Ryan Pike from Flames Nation, alongside Daily Faceoff's Frank Seravalli. Hi, Frank.
Ryan, what's going on?
Not much. We're here for a special morning after video as the Edmonton Oilers have defeated the Calgary Flames in 5 games in the first Battle of Alberta in the playoffs in 31 years. It certainly wasn't a boring series, Frank.
No, it was short, but they jammed a lot into it. It's like sort of the equivalent of someone that passes away at 60 and lived a full life. We had 45 goals and just no shortage of chaos. 3 goalie pulls. The Flames blew a 2-goal lead in all 3 home games in their building. Mike Smith had some incredible gaffes and moments. It did not lack for drama. There was NHL records that were set and broken, and it really lived up to the hype, which is something kind of rare in pro sports today, where everything that you think it might be, it was.
Exactly. And I think one of the talking points coming out of the series, outside of basically, folks in Edmonton have been talking about how good Connor McDavid is for years. Connor McDavid was arguably on a whole other level in this series, and he elevated a lot of guys in Navy and in Orange. But I think, Daryl Sutter in the post-game address, he mentioned games 2, 4, and 5 were all tied midway through the third period, and Edmonton got the big goals. And I think that the big takeaway from the series, if you're looking for a one-sentence summation as to why Edmonton's moving along and the Flames aren't, Edmonton's star players were better and better at key moments than Calgary's star players.
Well, yeah, there's not really much debate about that. I think what is interesting when you hear Daryl Sutter say that is the sort of lack of pushback from the Flames' perspective. Like, even when the Flames were in control and had leads, they never really were in full control of the game. The Oilers always had an answer, always had a response. And I think that's part of what's most surprising. Like, in some series, Ryan, the star players take over. Sometimes it's the role players, sometimes it's the goaltenders, and you never really quite know what you're going to get. But I was surprised at how off of their game and identity the Flames were really from Jump Street. Like, this was arguably the best defensive team in the league this season. They played a certain way, a certain style that we all said, hey, this will translate to the playoffs really nicely. And it did in the first round, even though they had to grind it out maybe a little bit more than they thought. The Oilers weren't looking for a track meet, I don't think. They certainly weren't expecting to play one. This Jay Woodcroft mentioned after the game that he didn't think this is how it would play out at all, to have 45 goals. And I'm still like picking up the pieces, and I know the Flames are going to be for a while, that they never really quite got to their game and were able to lock it down.
And I think from a Calgary perspective, I mean, in this market during the pandemic 2021 season, we in this market developed a big appreciation for everything Chris Tanev does on the ice. Chris Tanev last season was first with Rasmus Andersson, and then first with Noah Hannafin, and then with Mark Giordano, was one half of the Flames' best pairing in every iteration he was in on. And this year, he was part of the rejuvenation, the establishment of Alder Shillington as a bona fide NHL player. And I think the big takeaway for a lot of Flames fans and people who watch the Flames is, man, take away Chris Tanev from the blue line, and it's a lot different and a lot worse. And I think if you look at how the Flames played in the 3 games he didn't play versus the 3 games he did, it's a completely different team. And I think that was something, I know they probably expected to be a little bit different without him, but I think the degree to which in all 3 zones they were a little bit worse was really, really stark.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't know if Chris Tanev is at full health and plays the whole series. I don't know that the result's any different. And I think that's kind of why when you talk about the controversial reversal of the Coleman goal in the third period, that he wasn't happy, but Daryl Sutter kind of shrugged in the postgame, he was like, whatever. And I think the reason for the whatever, and the reason that I say that about Tanev, is the Oilers were the better team. The right team ended up winning the series. The better team ended up winning the series. And, you know, I really wonder if you play this series over 10 more times, how many do the Flames win? Like, I think it's, 6, 7. This series it unfolded in such an odd way. And I think really what comes down to it is you need stops from your goalie. Like, I'm kind of surprised in some way that Darryl Sutter didn't pull Jacob Markstrom in Game 5. As all those goals went in the second period, they needed a stop. And when you go 1-4 and you lose 4 straight to the Oilers and your save percentage is .852, like, you don't have a chance to win, many games, let alone a series. And that's maybe the most surprising part about all of this is at some point, those career numbers, the follies against the Oilers are a real thing. And Markstrom was never able to get his head on straight. And I think that looms way larger than Tanev, than his injuries, than, maybe even the team's identity, because how could you play good defense if your goalie's letting in every shot?
Yeah, it's a good point. And, the Flames, what we heard from Jay Woodcroft multiple times, 63 games for Jacob Markstrom in the regular season, far fewer for the backup goalie, Dan Vildar, who's very good for the Flames. But,
Ryan, so wait, let me stop you there. Jay Woodcroft kept hitting on that 63 games. Did he look like someone that was tired or hit a wall to you? I didn't
Nope.
think that. I thought it was just pure play based, not, any sort of fatigue.
Nope. And my thought process is just Darryl Sutter's a guy who rides his starting goalie. And, the Flames, even during the last 2 weeks of the season, they brought up Dustin Wolf from the American Hockey League and played Dan Villard for the better part of a week just to give Markstrom a chance to physically reset. So I think they had a plan for their goaltending. And for whatever reason, their plan sort of became undone against the Edmonton Oilers. And I think that'll be...
Markstrom came undone. That's the truth.
Yeah. And their plan was Markstrom. So I think it'll be fascinating to sort of see, does that impact how they manage their goaltending going forward? Because Dan Vladar is very good as we speak. Dustin Wolf has pitched 2 shutouts against a very good Colorado Eagles team in the American League. Obviously, apples and oranges. The American League's a much different game, but they have some options, and who knows what they do. But I think they probably end up going with Markstrom going forward. We touched on this. It's going to be a very interesting offseason for the Calgary Flames. Johnny Gaudreau is an unrestricted free agent as of midnight on July 12th. Matthew Tkachuk's going to be a restricted free agent. Andrew Mangiapane is going to be a restricted free agent. Oliver Shillington, I think half of their blue line is going to be unrestricted free agents. They have a lot of things to do, a lot of decisions to make, and not a ton of cap space to work around it. Frank, how do you see the next few weeks and months unfolding in Calgary?
You're right that it's going to be interesting. I just wonder what this loss and not just losing in the second round. Like, if you had told Flames fans before the season started in September, much to Darryl Sutter's point post-game, that they'd win the division and win a round, you'd say, oh, that's progress. This team's heading in the right direction. For a non-playoff team to take that step forward, that's a solid season. And it's easy to say that, except for the manner in which it played out. Losing 4 straight to your arch rival, to a team that many people will think on paper isn't quite as good as your team, and to have the question marks surrounding your stars again. Matthew Tkachuk, where was he after Game 1? Johnny Gaudreau, that coverage, if that's his final sequence as a Flame, man, that's tough to watch in overtime as McDavid scores. And you look at all that and you say, okay, since 2015, they've got 1 series win after that. It's not a lot. Most of the core has been, pretty similar throughout. They added, and this was the best team that Brad Treliving has had. He finally got the coach that they needed and wanted. They made some deadline acquisitions that really looked good for stretches. And then Tyler Toffoli, I don't know what happened to him these playoffs. He really struggled. He might have been the Flames' worst player in this series. And they've got big money decisions, as you pointed out. Like, I just feel like, I don't know how it's going to play out. It feels to me like one of Tkachuk or Gaudreau is not coming back next season. I tend to think that it's Gaudreau. And I think that, and I wonder what these playoffs, how it ended, has an impact on Gaudreau and his thinking. Does he think that because they got to the second round and lost, that they're closer? Or is it, that they're still, 3 rounds away from winning, that he might be better off going to do it elsewhere? My only sense is I don't think Johnny Gaudreau is taking a hometown discount to stay. I don't think, the Flames aren't going to be able to get him for less than market value. They're going to have to pay up if they want to keep him. I think they want to keep him. My question is just, does Johnny Gaudreau want to stay, or does he want to explore the market?
Yeah, it's going to be probably the most fascinating offseason we've had in Calgary in a generation. And it's I don't think anyone really knows how it's going to unfold. So thanks for joining us, everyone, and stay tuned to our friends at Daily Faceoff for continuing Stanley Cup playoff coverage, and to FlamesNation.ca for continuing coverage of what's going to be just an absolutely fascinating few months as we head into a very tumultuous offseason in Calgary.